have you with us on the 9 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. Viewers, we bring to you another investigation by Mirror Now. If you remember, a few days ago, we brought to you the rate card that gets presented if you go to any private hospital in the city of Chennai, and what exorbitant prices they were demanding just for admission if you are a COVID patient. So we decided to do ground checks in many other places. Tonight, we bring to you reports from the national capital. And our correspondent Alok made calls to 5 different private hospitals in Delhi, the biggest 5 hospitals, and everywhere there was a steep demand, a steep cost attached to COVID admission and treatment. And remember, these are just the initial charges and the money that they are seeking, anywhere between 1.5 lakh to 4 lakh rupees. Now, before I actually go across to our guests or even bring in Alok, I want to play out those audio clips. These are the calls, 5 different hospitals that Alok called. We're going to play out to begin with a few of them. These are the calls that show you that if you tomorrow have to go to a private hospital because the Delhi government hospitals may be booked or overburdened, or you just choose a private over government hospital, be ready to shell out lakhs of rupees for COVID treatment. Take a look.
कोविड पेशेंट है, उनको एडमिट कराना था, कितना रुपए चार्ज है?
तो ऑन दैट टाइम आपको इनिशियल डिपॉजिट जो है वो 5 लाख रुपीज कराना होगा।
कोविड पेशेंट का कितना होगा सर?
प्लीज टू पे 1.5 लाख रुपीज एज एन एडवांस।
हेलो सर, ये पूछना चाहता था कि कोविड पेशेंट है, 59 ईयर ओल्ड है, अब उनको एडमिट कराना था आपके यहाँ, कितना रुपए चार्ज है? ये बोल रहे हैं कि 5 लाख रुपए का
मैं आपको बताना चाहूंगा सर, अभी फिलहाल बेड नहीं है, ठीक है, बुकिंग ले सकते हैं हम लोग, ठीक है। अगर जैसे आप एडमिशन के लिए आप आएंगे तो ऑन दैट टाइम आपको इनिशियल डिपॉजिट जो है वो 5 लाख रुपीज डिपॉजिट कराना होगा, जिसमें आप 2 कैश करा सकते हैं और 3 NEFT या RTGS करा सकते हैं।
ठीक है, बस 5 लाख। अच्छा, मान लीजिए एडमिशन मिल जाता है और एक टाइम तो आएगा ही, आज नहीं 4 दिन 5 दिन के बाद, फिर उसके बाद उसका क्या प्रोसेस होगा? मतलब कितना रुपए पर डे?
सर, आपको पर डे का बिल आप पता कर सकते हैं ना सर, आपका कितना पेशेंट का कितना पर डे का बिल बन रहा है वो आप पता कर सकते हैं।
अच्छा, तो वो 5 लाख रुपए में से कटता जाएगा? ये 5 लाख रुपए एडमिशन चार्जेस आप बता रहे हैं?
सर, ये कोई चार्जेस अलग से कोई नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है, ये सिर्फ आपकी एक इनिशियल डिपॉजिट है सर।
हाँ, मैं समझ गया।
अगर आपके पेशेंट का कोई कम भी होगा, अगर सपोज आपके पेशेंट का 3 लाख बिल आ जाता है या 4 लाख बिल आ जाता है, तो बाकी जो होगा वो रिफंड होगा। अगर आपका 5 से ऊपर होगा तो आपको पे करना पड़ेगा।
मैं समझ गया, वही बात है। इसीलिए बस मैं एक चीज जाना था, पर डे बेड का कितना खर्चा है अगर मान लीजिए कोई वेंटिलेटर या ICU में, बस ये बता दीजिए।
सर, मैं ऐसा कुछ नहीं कह सकता।
अच्छा,
मैं आपको ऐसे अप्रोक्सीमेट कुछ नहीं कह सकता सर।
अच्छा, वो डिपेंड करता है कि क्या क्या जरूरत पड़ रही है
पेशेंट की
कंडीशन के हिसाब से। ठीक है, ठीक है बॉस, थैंक यू।
हेलो
जी सर, कोविड पेशेंट के लिए कितना एडमिशन चार्जेस है आपके यहाँ?
कहीं एडमिट है पेशेंट घर पे?
नहीं, घर पे है, लेकर के आना।
अभी तो देखो बेड नहीं है। अच्छा, दूसरी बात, अमाउंट की बात ये है कि अगर वार्ड में होगा तो 3 लाख,
वार्ड में होगा तो 3 लाख।
हाँ, और जो ICU वगैरह में अगर पेशेंट जाता है तो 5।
ICU में 5 लाख। सर, ये बताइए कि इतना कॉस्ट क्यों हो गया? नॉर्मल चार्जेस तो इतने नहीं होते हैं।
सर, क्या है कि इसमें खर्चा का पता नहीं है, क्या कितनी मेडिसिन लग जाए, क्या क्या हो जाए, और PP किट वगैरह, बहुत ज्यादा खर्चा है। ये पर डे का आइडिया नहीं लगा सकते कि कितना है।
हाँ, अच्छा,
ये
तो इसलिए पहले जमा कर लेते हैं, फिर उसका जो भी होगा
जो जितना लगेगा उतना लग जाएगा, और जो आपका रिफंडेबल होगा वो रिफंड कर देंगे।
हेलो
जी सर, कोविड पेशेंट का कितना होगा सर?
तो देखिए, कितना होगा तो वो तो बता नहीं पाएंगे, क्योंकि वो पेशेंट टू पेशेंट डिपेंड करता है।
ओके,
ठीक है, वो ट्रीटमेंट के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है, पर एक अप्रोक्सीमेटली आइडिया चाहिए तो 30,000 से 50,000 रुपए पर डे का अप्रोक्सीमेटली कॉस्ट हो सकता है उसमें आपका।
30,000 से 50,000?
हाँ जी, पर डे, बट वो वेरी कर सकता है, कम ज्यादा हो सकता है, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन कि पेशेंट के ऊपर क्या मेडिसिन की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है।
हाँ,
तो डिपेंड करता है कंडीशन के ऊपर।
Correct. I just want to know, sir, is there any admission charges also? Because some hospitals are taking money at the time of admission, like they deposit money.
At the time of admission, like the hospital will ask you at least to pay 1.5 lakh rupees as an advance, sir.
1.5 lakh. Okay. Thank you so much. So 1.5 lakh, and this is it depends on the patient. That 30,000 to 50,000 varies.
50,000 as in like per day. This is an approximately cost I'm telling you per day.
Yeah.
The patient required might like 7 or 10 days at least for like admission for this treatment, sir.
Okay. Okay. I got the point. Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
हेलो, गुड आफ्टरनून।
हम ये बेड्स के बारे में जानना चाहता था, बेड एडमिशन चार्जेस कितना है कोविड पेशेंट के लिए आपके?
सर पहले तो पेशेंट कहाँ है अभी?
पेशेंट अभी घर पे ही है।
स्टेबल है?
स्टेबल मतलब प्रॉपर नहीं कहेंगे, तो सीनियर सिटीजन है तो कुछ भी हो सकता है, तो थोड़ा सा क्रिटिकल भी हो सकता है।
ठीक है सर, अभी वैसे देखो बेड चार्जेस अगर इकोनॉमी वार्ड लेते हैं तो कैश पेमेंट है तो 3 लाख के आसपास 10 डेज का स्टे बनता है।
एक मिनट 3 लाख का 3.5 लाख का
स्टे बनता है फॉर 10
डेज का। ठीक है, तो ये हमें पहले डिपॉजिट कराना पड़ेगा, मतलब 3.5 लाख। ठीक है, वो 10 डेज के लिए डिपॉजिट हो जाएगा।
हाँ।
और इसमें अगर हमें मतलब मान लीजिए वेंटिलेटर भी लगता है, ऑक्सीजन भी लगता है, तो
सर वो तो फिर 7 to 8 लाख के आसपास लेके चलिए।
अच्छा।
हाँ जी।
तो वो तो अभी हम नहीं कह सकते ना मैम, पहले एडमिशन होगा। मान लीजिए
क्या एज है पेशेंट की? 59। वो तो एडमिशन के बाद आप अभी एडमिशन अगर वार्ड बोलेंगे डॉक्टर तो आप ये जो मैंने आपको अमाउंट बताया उसके अकॉर्डिंग डिपॉजिट कराएंगे।
ये वार्ड के लिए 3.5 लाख। हाँ,
जनरल वार्ड के लिए।
ठीक है।
अगर पहले से ही डॉक्टर आईसीयू एचडीयू बोलेंगे तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग डिपॉजिट कराना पड़ेगा।
तो वो कितना होगा मैम आईसीयू के लिए?
4 लाख के आसपास।
आईसीयू के लिए 4 लाख है।
हाँ,
और
4 to 5 लाख के आसपास।
4 to 5 लाख।
हाँ।
और मैम अगर आईसीयू वगैरह का है कुछ? आईसीयू तो बता दिया आपने। और अगर आप वेंटिलेटर्स वगैरह, मान लीजिए जैसे ऑक्सीजन सिलेंडर ही केवल
वो फिर आईसीयू में एडमिट होने के बाद, वो तो कंडीशन पे डिपेंड करता है ना।
अच्छा, पेशेंट की कंडीशन के ऊपर।
हाँ 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 सर, पहले प्लीज बेड कंफर्म करके फिर आएगा क्योंकि हमारे पास बेड ऑक्यूपेंसी बहुत हाई चल रहा है।
ओके, तो
बेड
मतलब
अवेलेबल है नहीं अभी।
अच्छा, अभी बेड अवेलेबल नहीं है, लेकिन हम अगर एडमिशन होता है तो पहले 3.5 लाख रुपीज डिपॉजिट करना पड़ेगा। ये नॉर्मल जनरल का है ना?
हाँ।
ठीक है मैम, ठीक है, ओके।
In fact, Alok is joining me right now. Alok also carried out earlier investigations on bed availability, which showed that not too many hospitals actually had beds or wanted to admit that they have beds. And then the fact that private ambulances themselves were charging a bomb from 5,000 to 12,000 rupees once you get that ambulance and reach the hospital. These are the charges you will have to shell out there, Alok. Clearly, many of them didn't even give you the specifics. Just said that this is the package and this is what you need to give upfront to even get in.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the patient who is already in the stress and already is not in that mental condition, he has to undergo with this kind of financial problem in which he has to deposit this huge amount of money during the time of his admission in the COVID designated hospital or where the treatment is happening. These are the private hospital where I talk to these administrative officials, and they clearly tell me that you have to deposit the money, then only we will start the treatment. So Tanvi, it's clearly the stages of struggle that public have to face if the person in your family found to be corona positive. First, you have a struggle of helpline, which is the first source and which is the first thing that you do when the corona positive case comes. The second, the struggle is to finding out the beds or identifying the hospital. The third stage is to taking the patient from your house to the hospital, and where the ambulances, these private ambulances, because the condition of the Delhi government run ambulances are not very good, so you have to rely on the private ambulances, and these ambulances are charging you a lot. And then during the time of admission, you have to get the huge amount of money which you have to deposit for the treatment. We believe that these hospitals are also providing very good facilities, and this is the reason that people are going to get the admission in these hospitals. But this is the huge amount. This is not easy that everybody will collect the amount and just give the hospital in just one go. That too.
All right, Alok, thanks so much for bringing us, those phone conversations, for finding out that kind of a rate card for us. Let's take this forward, and let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. And Dr. V.K. Monga, Chairman of the IMA Hospital Board of India, joins us this evening. Dr. Raj Singh, pulmonologist with Apollo Hospital in Chennai, is also joining us right now. Saurabh Bharadwaj, MLA for Greater Kailash in Delhi, and also, of course, Chief Spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party, and Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman for Nephron Clinics, with us. Dr. Bagai, let's begin with you. Now, obviously, this is just one example. We found similar instances in Chennai. Is this a trend that we are seeing in times of a pandemic, or is this largely what it has come down to if one has to go to a private hospital for a crucial treatment?
Just to set the parameters of what I'm going to say is that we know that private healthcare is expensive because the cost of technology and equipment is very cost intensive. That is a known fact and it's appreciated. Now, the point which I'm trying to make is that the private healthcare generally have bandwidths. Now, if the bandwidths of either the room rent or the ICU charges, the ventilator charges, the admission deposits fluctuate in such a manner that it almost doubles or triples during this pandemic, I don't feel it is just. These dysfunctional charges are completely baffling. Which common person, even forget a common person, even a wealthy, well-to-do person will have 3.5 or 5 lakhs as cash at the time of deposit. I don't think it is fair. If you look at it in a rational manner, this is totally putting the medical treatment, even in terms of a pandemic, which is a global crisis, an Indian crisis, out of reach for almost everyone. What is important, and we can dwell into this as time permits with your permission, is most of these private hospitals in major metros, say for example in Delhi, are run by charitable medical trusts. This is on institutional government land, which is either given free or at hugely concessional rates at prime locations in the heart of the metros. Now, the mandate of running these private hospitals on charitable trust lands, they are supposed to do a percentage of inpatient free and outpatient free. That is questionable whether all the hospitals are doing. But the bottom line is that these charitable trusts are supposed to be actually a non-for-profit organization. That's the reason they got the land. They have an undercover arrangement with the private hospitals and then money. So this, as two summary points in the end, what I would like to mention is that I think it needs more rationality in terms of pricing. There has to be certain bandwidth in which the hospitals can be categorized in terms of the infrastructure, the capability, the specialities. Every hospital need not be the same. I totally agree. But there cannot be such unfair pricing in which the patient suffers. Is the disease worse or the cure? Probably in this case, the cure. And the second point I would like to mention is that the charitable trust hospitals which are running under the facade of doing charity, they get income tax exemption. They are supposed to be doing charity, probably most of them. I think this needs a complete, authentic audit. I would request the government, either the central or the state and the Supreme Court, to set up an audit, clean up the act. This is not a time to look good. This is the time to look real.
Okay, let me ask Dr. V.K. Monga if he agrees. Dr. Monga, yes, of course, you know, one can say that there are additional costs. Everybody has to take care, the PPE kits involved. But even those costs are much smaller, in quantum. Does it justify the charges that the private hospitals are now demanding?
Basically, I do agree with most of the points raised by Dr. Bagai. Main issue is in Delhi, I mean, there are almost 3 types of setups. One is, all government hospitals in Delhi. Number 2 is the private, medium and small hospitals. And then you have the corporate hospitals, and that too, one is which has got land and are on charitable basis, and others who are fully commercial, All these types are there in Delhi. But even then, I mean, whatever you have said, and Dr. Bagai, I do agree, that sometimes they look so exorbitant that it is very difficult to afford, number one. But Indian Medical Association, because I belong to the Hospital Board of India of IMA, has always been demanding that the government should set up a system of costing for all levels of working in various hospitals all over the country. Maybe it is a small town or a big town or metropolitan places. And then they can talk about the small hospitals and big hospitals also. This has been our demand because, I mean, we cater to small and medium hospitals, and so many issues come up when costing studies are done. Even in Ayushman Bharat, we impress upon the government that they should make a formula which should be realistic. It should be based on the costing, for example, on infrastructure cost, staffing cost, then consumables and disposables. I mean, they should be into all these categorized, and then they should definitely, go for costing of government hospitals also. Dr. Bagai has worked in government hospitals for so long. He will agree that even in government hospitals, the cost of treatment is sometimes more than most of these private hospitals also. But they don't go for, because there is no cost studies done on that. So it's a question which I think needs to be looked after in a holistic approach, in a complete system, whereby not for only COVID, otherwise also there is no fleecing of patients, number one, and then they are realistic. They should be transparent. I should be able to say that I am charging this for this, this, and this. That's all.
Okay. So who does that now? Saurabh Bharadwaj, whose responsibility will it be? We've got the two of the biggest names from the medical fraternity right now saying that yes, some amount of transparency and capping is necessary. The private hospitals also show some responsibility.
First of all, I would like to thank Mirror Now and your journalists, for exposing what I call, it is immoral and it is unethical, and it is actually cruel in the times of pandemic when everybody has been, everybody is looking at the corporate houses for doing some kind of a CSR activity, some kind of a charity, helping people out in such times of crisis. And if there are private hospitals who are looking at it as an opportunity to mint money, I think this is very cruel. This is really cruel, and this is very shattering. And I'm sure, the government can do something into it. I'm not, I have not spoken to the department about it because I did not know about this thing or this topic, but I'll take it up with the government. And I think looking at such practices, the government will, I think, will devise a method to stop this. And I have been particularly, I'm very unpopular for dealing with such investigations with respect to private hospitals. We, as a committee, I was a chairman, and we investigated many hospitals, and we levied penalties to the tune of 490 crores. We levied a penalty of 490 crores on Escort Fortis in Delhi and many other hospitals as well. And probably, I'll request the government also to look into it. This is not a time to make money. This is really bad, and I don't think anybody has got 5 lakh rupees to put it at advance. They are obviously themselves in trauma that they have somebody who is serious with COVID and hospital demanding exorbitant money. This is really bad. This is really cruel. Should not happen.
Okay, now I understand what you're saying, and you are right that there have been many instances in the past where Delhi government has taken action. A couple of years ago, when Mirana also had another campaign about not just in Delhi, even the Gurgaon hospitals, the way they were charging, action was taken. But unfortunately, it looks like, Mr. Bharadwaj, things have come down to the same right now. And in times of pandemic, I agree with all our experts that some amount of responsibility has to be shown. Now, Dr. Raj Singh is joining us from Apollo Hospital in Chennai. Dr. Singh, this is not just the problem of Delhi. Mirror Now and our network correspondent actually carried out a similar check in Chennai. And in Chennai, they are charging equally exorbitant prices from 3 lakh to 5 lakh for admission.
Yes, thank you very much. I must first mention a disclaimer in that the views that I express in this program are entirely my own and do not reflect those of the institution to which I am attached. Having said that, I must agree with most of the sentiments expressed so far in this program. And I do agree that none of the hospital, nor any businesses or industries or any person should attempt to profit from a calamity as we are facing today. Now, in an ideal world, for medical care, nobody should have to pay anything at all at the point of care. I emphasize point of care because for medical care, as for anything else, there is a payment that is required. And that cost will have to come from somewhere. Either it is from the government or from insurance companies or from the pockets out of people who are using the care. Now, in our country, I think our medical care, the healthcare provided by the government has been a little patchy. Here and there it is excellent, and some places it is non-existent practically. So I think that has to be addressed first. And if we have an excellent public healthcare system, there really will not be much need for private healthcare, which is charging so exorbitantly. Having said that, I think any private hospital or healthcare system which is charging exorbitantly should be curtailed. And I think, in my personal opinion, I believe that all of us have sacrificed something in order to support people who are unfortunate enough to have succumbed or who are suffering from this disease. And I think the private hospitals should also join in this and probably should put up with a small amount of loss rather than look at profit. But I do believe that most private hospitals are actually running at losses, possibly, because the cost of medical care is very difficult to compute. As many have mentioned already, the costs are very variable. And I think if you look at the costs of complex corporate large hospitals, you'll see there's plenty of costs which are not tangible, which are not obvious to people. And if you put all that in, I think the cost of the hospital can become so huge that it may be unsustainable unless you charge the patient. So I think that is the situation we are facing now. And I do hope that we will all be able to come together and fight this scourge. But in the meantime, there will be some difficulties for people, unfortunately. And I hope we'll be able to join hands in this fight against COVID.
Yes, but you know what the point is that I will not expect the private hospitals to do it themselves. Let's just be honest. Wherever there is a chance, history tells us that they've taken the opportunity to mint profits rather than sharing some responsibility. Now, they may go ahead and separately donate funds for COVID, but where it should actually matter on ground in helping those patients, we've not seen too many actually come forward. Dr. Monga, then does it make it important and crucial for the governments to come in and say, no, we need more transparency, here are the rules, this is how you have to be transparent about your charges, your costs, and we're going to cap it. This is as much as you can charge. Of course, if there are complications and additional, treatments that are required if a COVID patient gets too serious and that begins to impact other parts of his health, that's a different scenario. But considering the large number of COVID cases we are going to have, there has to be some capping of the treatment and transparency in the charges.
Tanvi, capping is a wrong word for all these things, capping means, you put up a cap. Nothing beyond it. But overall, I said earlier also, it has to be a transparent costing mechanism whereby the patient who is going there, he should know that this is the amount he has to pay for A, B, C, and D. And in fact, the costing should be done in a technical, academic manner also. The government should engage some costing agencies. They should, I said earlier also, from a district to a block, to a headquarter, to the capital, they should look into all these issues, that what are the costs involved in making a hospital, what is the need, how much is the need of manpower over there, and what are the consumables and disposables which will be required for a particular disease. You just cannot cap. For example, for a doctor of 35 years with a 10 years experience and a doctor of 60 years with a 30 years experience, you cannot cap all these, but they should be transparent. That is what we have always believed. And we have been stressing upon the central government as well as Delhi government also, that they should come out with a formula, costing formula, whereby everybody knows, every patient going into a hospital knows that these are the facilities available here and I'll have to pay this much. But that should not be exorbitant also. Once the government comes out with a formula, that will really be, cost effective as well as, good to the people, palatable to the people, and good to the public also. Public should know everything. That is our Indian Medical Association aim.
Okay, no, I get what you're saying, but how does the change really begin then, Dr. Bagai? Where I am just trying to understand right now, where should the onus be? We all largely seem to agree that something must be done. Who should do it is the point then.
Well said. So if we are not a part of the solution, we are still a part of the problem. And unfortunately, we are all still, as a society, a part of the problem. The pricing studies, I've been a personal member of the FICCI committee for pricing for the last 2 years. All these have already been submitted. There is a bandwidth which is depending upon the grade, the infrastructure, the specialities, the kind of technology, the kind of radiology and lab equipments, the number of doctors, the manpower. Everything has been done. There are more than 70 or 80 line items which were kept in mind in a graded manner. And I think hospital facilities also should be categorized as category A, B, and C, depending upon quaternary care, tertiary care, secondary care, and so on. So that studies already have been done. They exist. We don't have to reduplicate and reinvent the wheel. We can just use that. But this fair pricing should happen in non-pandemic times also. And even in times, we have to be even more cautious. Now, if the scale of charges are going to go up in this global catastrophe, then the medical fraternity is shown in very poor light. Let me also add that all the rate lists and the schedule of charges and the pricing is actually decided by the hospital owners. And we get the brunt. As a medical fraternity, we get a brunt of it because we are directly interacting with the patients. So really the distrust between the patients and the medical fraternity continues to grow because the pricing becomes so absurdly high, which is out of reach of almost everyone. Now, the Delhi government has done a very wise thing, and I must compliment them, that they have put a cap and made the hotels into hospitals, be it for quarantine or for care, and they have put a cap of 4,000 and 5,000. During this pandemic time, why can't the hospitals have a cap on the total pricing? Now, if a hospital room rent, dry room rent is going to reach 25,000 rupees per patient per night, it's virtually impossible to afford it. If the hospital bill is going to be 1.2 to 1.5 lakhs per day, and if the patient is there for 10 days, no human being is going to afford 10 to 12 lakhs or 15 lakhs. There are some case reports, 16 lakhs as a patient treatment total bill. The point really is, if we use the charitable trust money, which is given to the charitable trust as free or concessional land, this money as not used for the trustees' profit. If it is used to treat patients, need any external fund, no stimulus, no center's grant, no state needs to sponsor. Please investigate this, Saurabh. I'm requesting you, have an independent audit, have a retired High Court or a Supreme Court judge to overview it. Look into where the money flows. You will get all the answers. All the answers. Healthcare, we keep saying that it is affordable, it is accessible, it should be accredited 100%. But are we living up to it? Probably not. This is the time all of us need to stand up for what is right. If the charges are going to go through the ceiling, then the patient might as well die. Is that what we want? We don't want that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Saurabh Bhardwaj, do you want to come in at this point? That's a direct message to you from Dr. Sanjeev Bagai.
Point which he has raised, and I think this is what is needed, because when these hospitals, most of them get land, they get it that they want to serve the society. They want to run a non-profit making organization in form of a hospital, and whether it is schools or it is private hospitals, they are not supposed to make profit. It is a non-profit organization, and I'm sure what he is suggesting, that if their accounts, if their books are audited by auditors, I'm sure a lot of money flow can be found, and I take it as a good advice, and I'll recommend it to the government, and probably I'll myself try to see if I can implement it in some way.
Also, I wanted to ask you, Saurabh Bhardwaj, because, can you give us a timeline? I know these are times of a pandemic where a lot of other things also have to be managed, but this is also equally important, the fact that we stop the hospitals from charging these exorbitant prices. I don't even know if some of them are just putting this out there because they don't want the COVID patients to come to their hospitals. We found instances like that in Mumbai where they're not using the dedicated amount of beds for COVID patients. Can you give us a timeline for when your government, your party will look into this matter and, possibly find a solution?
No, I think we will look into it right away, right from tomorrow. And I think he should investigate, and there has to be a corrective measure because, it has to be, because if hospitals are not taking care about these things themselves, then government has to step in.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Dr. Bagai, you wanted to make another point before I wrap this up?
Yeah, just a quick point, Saurabh, if I'm audible. All these private hospitals which have tied up with a charitable trust have got an income tax exemption. Now they've got the income tax exemption so that the money which is generated by the trust, from the trust, of the trust is used for charity. So really it's the case of perhaps not using or misusing at the present moment the income tax exemption. Find out where the money trail is. Use this money only for two things: treat the COVID patients just now, and make a corpus fund in every state for the welfare of the doctors. Give them benefits, look after the retired doctors. In case the doctor suffers in eventuality in terms of treating a patient, dies, a lot of cases have happened in which the doctors have died in treating as COVID warriors. Look after them because they've died in the line of duty to serve our nation, to serve the patients, to treat the patients, to save the patients.
Yes.
I think their families need to be looked after. This money can actually be used in a much better way than for personal profiteering.
Oh yes, absolutely. For the personal profiteering of the management and those who run these hospitals, instead of that, it could at least be used for the medical professionals, healthcare professionals who are actually out there working round the clock. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us on this constructive conversation. Viewers, we've got your reports from Chennai and Delhi, now two different cities. In Chennai, the Tamil Nadu government has assured us that they're going to look at it and see if there is a need to cap the pricing, and we are closely tracking those developments. We've got Saurabh Bhardwaj now also assuring us that even in Delhi, they will look into this matter. So Mirror Now is going to follow this up. Yes, we understand that even the healthcare facilities and the professionals are under pressure. But that doesn't mean that various organizations who are running these hospitals, who actually got many of these hospital buildings and that land at a very low cost, start looting us and fleecing us. And if that's what's happening on ground, and if they're not going to be transparent about why they are demanding so much of money from us for COVID treatment, then there has to be accountability that the state demands from these hospitals. We hope that happens. We will keep a close track of it. Time for a quick break. Lots more on the other side. Manu Sharma, the man accused and convicted for murder of Jessica Lal, is now a free man. That's triggered a big debate. Stay with us. Welcome back, viewers. This was a brutal murder and an investigation, a case hearing that grabbed national headlines and got all of us interested. It was also a story that actually united India, and for the first time we actually saw a massive mass movement on ground, protests being held, national outrage about the way the investigation had been carried out, the prosecution had presented the case, and how a huge injustice had been done. I'm talking about the Jessica Lal murder case. Jessica Lal was murdered in 1999, where at a party, after the party had come to an end, she refused to serve drinks. As she was bartending there, she refused to serve drinks to a bunch of people, and one of them, high on power, actually took out his gun and shot her in cold blood. Manu Sharma was actually acquitted by the lower court as a series of hostile witnesses turned hostile, and the shoddy prosecution ensured there wasn't any evidence presented in court. But as Jessica's sister took up this case, and so did the media at that point of time, it led to a huge amount of outrage across the country, forcing the Delhi High Court to actually step in and order a fresh investigation and SIT to look into this entire matter. Subsequently, Manu Sharma was convicted and sent to prison for life sentence, life term. That's not happening anymore. He's now out. He's a free man tonight. Due process in many ways on paper has been followed. There was a board that looked into his case, into his application. A go-ahead was sought from sister of Jessica Lal, who Sabrina said they have no issues if he wants to be freed. The jail authorities can go ahead and do that. The jail board recommended so to the Lieutenant Governor, and then the Lieutenant Governor approved. Now, we are given to understand that the reasons that were given officially were that Manu Sharma had enterprising business ideas, that he also carried out a lot of charity to finance and educate children of other inmates and to effectively give money so that they could be educated, and on grounds of good conduct. These are the reasons primarily given for his early release. Now, that's all right. These decisions are made on a case-to-case basis. I don't want this conversation to only be about Manu Sharma. We're going to have a larger conversation of if India's laws and the system itself is biased, if it only ends up helping the privileged, those who can actually manage to find the money to do this kind of charity and then get out of jail on the basis of good conduct. Many don't even get this kind of representation. And if it's too subjective, whether somebody is feeling remorse or not, who gets to judge that to then decide that a person can be given an early release? Some of the questions that I have in my mind, but before I go across to our legal experts, I actually want to bring in our managing editor, Vinay Tiwari, for his perspective. Vinay, you've seen far too many of these cases, and in your experience, are the rules uniform? Does everybody get the same rule implementation?
No, obviously not. And not too many cases, yes. And unfortunately, I saw this one as well. And I think it's very important for our viewers to be told who Manu Sharma actually is. Manu Sharma, or Siddharth Vashisht as his actual name is the grandson of one of India's former presidents. His father is one of the most powerful politicians Haryana has produced. He has a family enterprise that has construction, that has power, that has media, and is very, very economically sound. Now, that's not something that can be held against someone. It's perfectly fine to have all of this. But I think that begs the question, and in all our experience, we've seen that your ability to afford good legal counsel and help does influence the outcome of the laws that already exist in the system. I don't think anyone is quarreling over the due process being followed right now. The Sentence Review Board, in its justification, believed that he deserved to be given the clemency or to be given a premature release from the jail. The issues that you raised, the grounds that were mentioned, one of the grounds which said he had a good business enterprise, and I'll tell you what that good business enterprise is. Tihar Jail actually runs a product category called TJs. TJs is short form for Tihar Jail. They make bakery products, they make a lot of eatables. There are a lot of food items that TJs manufactures, and it's very popular in Delhi. Actually, a lot of people in the West Delhi area actually buy a lot of TJs products. This particular TJs manufacturing unit in Tihar used to have a turnover of around 3 to 4 crores per annum. Now, they seem to suggest, the Tihar Jail administration, that ever since Manu Sharma got involved in advising this project, it started running up revenues of 20 crores per annum. Good. But can that be a ground is a question mark. Second, there is no doubt about that, and from all the jail officials that we've spoken to and we've known over the years, he was a better behaved person than the other co-accused in this case, which was Vikas Yadav, who used to be not so disciplined as he is. But there was one other aspect that went in his favor. He had a charity, a Siddharth Vashisht Charitable Trust, which actually helped the inmates' children to get educated. Again, noble, but again, something that is allowed or you get benefit of only if you have the financial resources for it. I have observed over the years, Tanvi, that your ability or financial strength certainly allows you access to better legal counsel, and in effect also allows you to get quote-unquote better justice from the very rules that exist for everybody in India, Tanvi.
Yes, in fact, not just that, it also allows you special privileges if you have the strong support system, if you are highly influential and politically connected. The fact of Vinay also is that he had quite a bit of that freedom and privilege even when he was in jail.
He had. He was able to come out of the jail on parole many times. In fact, there was a time when he was allowed the open jail facility. Open jail facility actually allows you to actually go out during the day, do your normal work and come back at night. That's not the kind of thing that many people are possibly even aware of, or even have the ability to access counsels who can manage to get you that ability. So he obviously managed to do that. And when that incident had actually happened, remember in this case, the first round of the justice system had actually acquitted the accused in this case, and only after there was a hue and cry in the media and there was a lot of campaign that started across the country was justice actually delivered in this case, when a reinvestigation was ordered. And remember, a reinvestigation is done in very rare circumstances. Retrials can happen, but reinvestigation means that the whole investigation itself was suspect. There was also one particular reported incident, Tanvi, that I must say happened while he was on parole. His counsels have been denying that incident, and I think I should be fair enough to say that they have officially denied it. But in that case, when he was out in parole, there was one particular restaurant bar in Chanakapuri area where there was an allegation that he entered into a bar fight with another individual. As it so happened, that individual was the son of one of the police commissioners of that particular period in Delhi. And in that sense, it became a bit of a scandal, and the whole matter was probably never made official. Although statements were recorded, but it was never really made official.
Okay, so that's the that's the background that one needs to know for this specific case. Let's also say good evening to Arima Sundaram, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, and Geeta Luthra, also a Senior Advocate of Supreme Court, joining us this evening. Mr. Sundaram, let's begin with you. For our viewers to understand the process itself for early release. Is it very subjective, and do only a few get to benefit more than the others, as is, in many other parts of our judicial system?
Well, that last part of your sentence of few benefiting more than others, as is part of our judicial system, I cannot agree with. But let me say this, the rules are uniform. Because one of your questions was, I heard you say it earlier, do we have unequal rules? The rules are uniform. The tests are uniform. Sometimes you might find fault with the implementation of those tests or the rules, which is where you find the difference in being treated for one and the other. The fact of the matter is, I think there is an underlying cardinal principle that when a person is given imprisonment for life without the court actually directing that imprisonment shall be for life without earlier release, after you finish 14 years, you have a right to come up before the board to be considered as to whether your sentence should be commuted and whether you are, instead of being in jail for the whole life, after 14 years you can be released. Now, the cardinal rule in deciding that is to see whether the person, when he's released, is going to go out into society and live a normal, good life in society and not be prone to committing acts of violence or illegal acts in future. In order to determine that, naturally it becomes important as to what his behavior was while in jail. So I would have thought in the normal course, Manu Sharma might have used his money to find himself helping charities and things like that. But I don't think we can run away from the fact that this was a case where he had run away from the scene of the crime, did everything to hide the crime. After the crime, there was no remorse. After that, after he was found, there were 27 witnesses who went hostile, which means the trial was being engineered even when it was going on. After all that, even when he was in jail, he repeatedly used to get parole. He violated conditions of parole. I think, therefore, I find the third ground of good conduct a bit suspect. But, you can always criticize a decision, but the law is clear that it is open to consider whether a person's sentence should be commuted after 14 years. And I suppose the primary question is not really as to how much charity he did or how rich he was or whether he has a business or whether he does. That's not the question at all. I think the basic question which would apply, which the board would really apply itself to is, if this man is released today, will he go into society and be a normal and be a productive member of society, and C, a person who is not likely to commit any other further crimes? And that is the cardinal test, I think, which is underlying. For that, you have a various objective questions like what you're saying. Did he do charity? Ergo, he's a man who helps others. Does he run a business? Ergo, yes. Therefore, he is going to go out and run a business and run a productive life. These are external tests given. But I think the primary question is, look at the man and see whether he has shown the remorse, whether he wants to go back into society and live a life where he will regret what he's done and try to do his best to lead a life as a good and productive citizen. That is the test. And I suppose when you look into that, his past conduct may make a lot of people question the application of this commutation to him. But then there are two sides to every coin, and I suppose here there will be people with different views on the subject. But what really I must say is very telling is the sister of the victim, of the murdered person. That is a very surprising thing, and I think that surprised me also. But, well, she may have felt a pang of forgiveness or whatever it was, but I don't think that alone can ever be a circumstance to say a person should be released, because a sister turns around and says, I think he should be released now. I don't really think that that's a relevant circumstance.
Okay. Yes. Well, that's what we were told, that she has given the permission, maybe an act of forgiveness, maybe she just wants that chapter to be closed. So much that family lost in this entire battle, right from losing a daughter and a sister to the fact that they had to now then fight this day after day after day to finally get justice. But Geeta Luthra, one aspect which we are told usually gets considered is if that person is showing remorse and feeling remorse, and if that can be taken as a reason for commuting their sentence. How does one judge that? How do we know if Manu Sharma was actually feeling remorse? Because from what we know of many years ago, of 2005 and 2006, he and his family and everybody else used all their might to get out of the case.
So the thing is, the circular or the notification which covers it is a 2004 notification. Now, when it appears to a layman, whether you see the Tandoor case or murder case, the Sushil Sharma, where he was an accused, or other cases, for a layman it may appear as if it's earth-shattering that a person's released like this. But if we look at the law, 2004, the notification, it's very categorical. It says there are two categories of offenses, heinous and non-heinous. Now, heinous say murder with rape, murder with X, murder of a small child, all those, they come in the heinous category of the explanation under clause 3.1. So I've done some of this law, and in fact, very recently, Supreme Court had come out with a judgment that normally the Delhi High Court was releasing such people under habeas corpus, because if you're non-heinous murder, which would be the category that he would come in, then it would be 14 years without remission. Now, in his case, I think it's been at least 16, 17 years. Offense was 21 years ago. So he was not only eligible, he was eligible from quite a bit of time. So that's the first aspect. And second, we don't go behind the behind the offense, because that trial has happened. He is punished, he's been given a punishment, and he's serving that punishment. So we look at that as one level, and then we look beyond that to see how is the conduct been. And then 14 years and his period has been more than 14 years. So the persons who sit down for a committee, say in a case where it's a state offense, is the various governments, the Home Secretary, the Home Minister of Delhi, maybe Home Minister means Delhi NCT government, Minister for Home of the NCT of Delhi, the Home Secretary, District Judge, and you have several reports. You have Tihar reports explaining how his conduct has been. You will have a social report, which basically says how is his social conduct been. And the authorities, jail authorities, the police, which is part of the jail authorities because an IG of prisons heads it. And then you look at all those parameters and the conduct. So, fact is, you've said that Jessica Lal's sister, Sabrina Lal, has forgiven him and said, move on. Now, she says it's 21 years. I have moved on. He served his sentence. He has done his punishment. Ultimately, law is not retributive. He had a severe punishment, which was 14 years. From 2017, he was having open prison, but that allows him to go to an NGO, do service outside. First, they send you to semi-open prison, then they send you to open prison. And now comes one important aspect, which was the query: would a non-rich person with a non-influential person, would he get the same kind of relief? So the office memo shows that he should in principle get the same kind of relief. Now let me tell you a little bit about some cases I've done, and I'm doing those pro bono because those people are really, really poor. They can't afford fees, but one is doing it because they are coming within the parameters. So what happens is, sometimes these people do Vipassana courses, they do yoga courses, they do other classes which will make them fit for rehabilitation in society. Within Tihar, they do some social work.
Okay.
So all of them become eligible. It is not so a person who is in Manu Sharma's position may have an added advantage because who can have a trust or a charity. But having said that, any kind of good work that you do, any kind of rehabilitation program you join, for example, Sushil Sharma's case, I believe he joined yoga, Vipassana, and some other courses. Perhaps Shri Ravi Shankar, I'm not recalling, but Art of Living, yes, that's right. And similarly, some of the courses which others have done, so you try and become a useful member of society. So if the one incident which was being talked about was one incident of 2009 of parole. Now, from 2009 to 2020 is a good 11, 12 years. So his conduct, if it's been decent and if it has satisfied parameters, he served his sentence, then...
No, I agree with what you're saying, Ms. Geeta Luthra. He may not have transformed between 1999 to 2009, but that doesn't go, necessarily mean that he didn't after that and didn't change after that. And the recommendation itself says that there is an X amount of good work that he has done and good conduct that he's shown, and that's what we have to go through. I get the point you're making, though. Vinay, would you want to weigh in on this, though, what both of our experts are saying, though?
No, two very quick things. Look, I mean, we have two legal luminaries and I don't want to get into a legal issue on this, but I can tell you two things. Sabrina Lal's so-called pardon, and Mr. Arima Sundaram used the word surprised. I am just adding one more word. I am very surprised because I've seen this family right from day one when the murder was first reported till now. I was very, very surprised to see that she actually chose the word pardon and said that she's moved on. But having said that, this particular letter saying that I have moved on and I don't want to do anything to do with it was actually given in 2018. Now, since then until now, the Sentence Review Board that was set up has actually rejected this same application 4 times in the past. It's only now that the Sentence Review Board, which is led by the Delhi NCT government's Home Minister, which is Mr. Satyendra Jain, that they agreed to this. And once they agree and give the recommendation, of course, the LG is bound to sign that. My only question is, obviously it's a question of debate. If the same Sentence Review Board uses the exact same conditions and rejects it 4 times and finds merit in the exact same argument the 5th time, it's not as clean and simple as we make it sound. There is a debate on this. The recommendation powers that the Tihar administration has to say that he's got a good conduct, that he's helped Tejas as a brand to reach from 3 crores to 20 crores, or he's helped with the NGOs, is something which is being given by a system. That system itself has questions over it, and nobody knows it better than all the legal luminaries we have. Tihar jail is not exactly a paragon of virtue where reports can't be given in the manner in which you wish. Tanvi.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the fact of the matter also is that this was rejected 4 times in the past, but it has been accepted now, and he's out and he's a free man. The fact of the matter is also the fact that while the rules are uniform, like Mr. Arima Sundaram said, it actually really depends on how it gets implemented, and there we don't really know how the system works. It may benefit people like Manu Sharma. It may not benefit people who don't have the wherewithal to actually make this application and show the kind of record that he has managed to. So that's what it is. Mr. Sundaram, would you suggest any larger changes to this system of reducing sentence or giving a pardon?
Well, first of all, I believe that a 14-year rule, and I'm sorry to use that word rule, because that's exactly what it's become, based on what Ms. Luthra herself has just pointed out, that after 14 years, a person becomes entitled to the remission of the sentence if it's a non-heinous crime. So in other words, you're actually veering around to a view, unfortunately today, that the normal sentence is 14 years. That's why the layman thinks that life is 14 years. So the first question one must ask is, for a crime which carries life imprisonment, whether we should say, yes, 14 years is the life imprisonment as far as India is concerned, that life means 14 years. Well, I believe that our penal code itself is very clear in making distinctions between what is cold-blooded murder, premeditated murder with intent, and what could be a crime of passion, a crime of need, and other kinds of crime, and draw a distinction between culpable homicide not amounting to murder and murder. I believe that once a person is convicted of murder, which really means that in full control of your faculties, you have taken a conscious decision to kill another person, and you feel that his life is in your hands and you can take it, I think it takes a lot for such a person to be released in 14 years' time, unless he can really show that there is true remorse and his conduct is so exemplary that one says, look, this is a man who at that moment has done something so dastardly, he himself is regretting it and he has spent his life in repentance over it, and therefore we're going to release him. Now, a case like that, I can understand saying 14 years for a premeditated murder. Otherwise, we're making a mockery out of what we call life imprisonment by saying life imprisonment means, in the normal case, you get released after 14 years. Then call it a 14-year imprisonment, which can be extended if it's bad behavior, but then call it a 14-year imprisonment. Don't call it life imprisonment anymore.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, for many, it was also confusing, in terms of the calculation that was done for his life term. It's called the life term, but it was supposed to be, till 2023. Of course,
and
he's now out and he's a free man.
10 paroles,
Thank you
if
so
I'm
much.
not
Always a
mistaken.
pleasure.
He was out on parole 10 times.
10 paroles. Yes. So absolutely, you're right there. Multiple paroles and a significant amount of his jail time that he had already spent outside, and multiple times there was furor also as well about that. Thank you Arima Sundaram and Geeta Luthra for joining us. Thank you Vinay Tiwari for also joining us and really reminding us exactly who Manu Sharma is, where he came from, and how that case turned many times before at least some kind of justice was done to Jessica Lal's family. Completely out of time on this edition of the Urban Debate. Thank you so much for joining us.